There comes a moment in your life when you just get tired of explaining yourself to people who were never listening, tired of fighting battles that only drained your spirit, tired of carrying weight that was never yours to bear. And in that quiet moment, when the world feels too loud, too heavy, too cruel, you realize something life-changing. You don't have to respond to everything. You don't have to entertain every insult, every betrayal, every doubt that others throw your way. You can train your mind to get unbothered, not cold, not heartless, but free. Free from the opinions of people who don't even know your story. Free from expectations that were never built with your soul in mind. See, strength isn't about shouting back. Real power is in the silence, in the calmness when chaos surrounds you and you refuse to let it in. That's when you've leveled up. That's when you know you're healing. Don't let this world keep touching your peace. Guard it, fight for it, train for it. Because the most dangerous person is not the loud one, but the one who can walk through fire untouched, unshaken, and unbothered. Most people go through life reacting. Reacting to disrespect, reacting to criticism, reacting to silence, and reacting to every opinion that threatens their ego. But there comes a point where you must stop reacting and start mastering. Mastering the art of emotional discipline isn't about pretending you don't feel. It's about learning how to feel without letting those feelings control your actions. It's about choosing calmness in the face of chaos. See, emotional discipline is like training a wild horse. At first, it kicks, it resists, it panics. But with patience, with repetition, and with inner strength, that wildness becomes power under control. Every time you feel triggered, that's not just a moment of weakness, it's a moment of opportunity. You have a split-second choice. Respond with wisdom or react with wound. The way you manage that second determines your strength. The ones who provoke you want your reaction. It feeds them. But when you pause, when you breathe, when you say nothing, you've already won. Because the one who stays in control always holds the power. Power doesn't belong to the loudest voice. It belongs to the calmest presence. That's emotional discipline. And that's what separates warriors from wanderers in this life. We live in a world that glorifies instant reactions. The faster you clap back, the stronger you appear. But strength is not in how fast you respond. It's in how well you respond. There's power in patience. There's wisdom in restraint. Emotional discipline teaches you to wait, to think, and to rise above. It's like being in a storm and choosing not to get wet. You see the lightning, you hear the thunder, but you don't let it shake your center because you've trained for this. You've been through worse. When someone pushes your buttons, it's tempting to snap. It feels good for a second, but later it feels hollow. Growth is when you're able to feel the same fire that used to burn you, and yet you don't get scorched anymore. You observe it, you acknowledge it, but you don't let it pull you out of character. Emotional discipline is not about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally intelligent, knowing when to speak, when to stay silent, and when to walk away. You don't owe everyone a reaction. Some things are beneath the level you're walking on now. And if you keep rising, you won't even hear the noise anymore. People will test you. Life will test you. It will throw insults at you disguised as jokes. Betrayals dressed up in smiles, and disappointment wrapped in expectations. But your response, your ability to hold your peace, is the truest reflection of your growth. Emotional discipline isn't built in calm waters. It's forged in the heat of conflict. It's easy to stay composed when everything's going your way, but the real test is when nothing makes sense and your name is in everyone's mouth for the wrong reasons. Will you still stay centered? Will you still protect your peace? People expect you to break. They're waiting for you to explode, to fall apart, to match their chaos. But when you remain unmoved, when you don't stoop to their level, you confuse them. You take back your power without lifting a finger. That's what emotional discipline does. It makes you untouchable. And the truth is, the more you evolve, the less you engage. You start to understand that your energy is sacred. You can't afford to waste it on people who only show up to disrupt your spirit. So you start choosing peace, not because you're weak, but because you finally know your worth. There's a special kind of strength in sitting with your anger and not letting it dictate your decisions. In acknowledging your hurt, but not becoming it. You can be angry and still respond with clarity. You can be disappointed and still move with grace. That's not weakness, that's mastery. And you don't get there overnight. It takes self-awareness, it takes humility, it takes a deep desire to stop being emotionally available to every form of nonsense that comes your way. Emotional discipline teaches you to ask yourself before reacting, is this worth my peace? Is this worth stepping out of character for? 9 times out of 10, the answer is no, because most of what triggers you isn't even about you. It's a reflection of someone else's pain, their insecurity, their need for attention. When you start seeing it for what it is, it stops having power over you. And that's the shift. That's when you stop dancing to the rhythm of other people's dysfunction. You stop letting small minds pull you into petty conflicts. You become a fortress, a calm, focused, purpose-driven soul who has better things to do than to argue with chaos. The beauty of emotional discipline is that it turns every moment of pressure into a training ground for your spirit. That angry text you don't reply to, that insult you don't address, that shady comment you ignore, all of it is you choosing power over pettiness. It's you saying, I don't need to prove myself to people who don't see my value. The more you practice that, the more natural it becomes. You begin to realize that peace isn't something that just happens. It's something you fight for internally. Every day you make the choice. React or respond, retaliate or rise. And each time you choose to rise, you're rewiring your mind. You're showing yourself that you're in control now, not your triggers, not your ego, not your trauma, you. And that's the kind of control no one can take from you. It gives you the ability to walk through disrespect, not because you didn't hear it, but because you've grown past needing to defend yourself. Your peace becomes more important than your pride. That's how warriors are built, not in war, but in wisdom. When you train yourself to be emotionally disciplined, you start to notice things you never noticed before. You see through people's intentions. You recognize manipulation disguised as concern. You hear the hidden jealousy behind compliments. And instead of reacting, you observe. You analyze. You distance yourself quietly with dignity. Because you understand now, it's not your job to fix everything or prove anything. You don't need validation from people who can't even validate themselves. Your calmness becomes a shield. Your silence becomes a message. And your discipline becomes your defense. This level of control doesn't make you perfect. It makes you powerful. Because it means you've done the inner work. You've cried the tears. You've screamed in silence. And now you're calm. Not because life is easier, but because you become stronger. Stronger than the chaos, stronger than the past, stronger than your need to be understood. And the more you stay in that strength, the more you begin to attract what aligns with your peace. The noise starts to fade, and all that remains is clarity. In the end, emotional discipline is not about suppressing what you feel, it's about mastering how you express it. It's waking up every day and deciding, today I will not let the world control my peace. It's not a one-time decision. It's a lifestyle, a daily practice. And yes, there will be moments when you slip, when anger rises, when pride wants to jump in. But that's okay. Growth is not about being flawless. It's about being aware. And with each test, each moment you choose restraint, you become more refined. You become more unshakable. You stop being a victim of emotional turbulence and become a master of your response. That's the power that changes your life. Because the person who has mastered their emotions has mastered themselves. And when you master yourself, nothing, not rejection, not betrayal, not even failure, can break you. You walk into rooms with quiet confidence. You face problems with clarity. You love deeper without losing yourself. That is the art. That is the goal. To train yourself to get unbothered and stay unbothered, not by hardening your heart, but by elevating your mind. Most people wake up every day and give their energy away to things that do not matter. They waste mental space on opinions that won't matter next week, emotions triggered by temporary situations and people who haven't earned a seat at their table. But there's a massive shift that happens in your life when you stop pouring energy into everything and start choosing where it goes. You only have so much to give. Your energy is your currency. Would you hand over all your money to someone who didn't value it? No. So why do you hand over your peace, your focus, your strength to people and problems that haven't proven they deserve it? It's time to guard your energy the same way you'd guard your dreams. You can't grow, you can't heal, and you can't win if your energy is being drained by nonsense. The arguments you shouldn't be in, the people who are addicted to chaos, the situations that only steal your joy and leave you depleted. This is why awareness matters. You have to start asking, is this worth my energy? Is this helping me grow or just pulling me back into old cycles? Your future depends on how you answer. There's a difference between reacting and responding. Reaction is impulsive. It's energy released without purpose. Response, on the other hand, is intentional. It requires emotional discipline, awareness, and the ability to step back before stepping in. If someone says something disrespectful and you jump in without thinking, you've given them your energy on their terms. You've let their chaos become your mood. But when you pause, when you think, when you choose peace over petty, you reclaim power. Power over yourself, over your reactions, over your life. Know what deserves your energy means knowing what doesn't. Not everything requires your comment, your defense, or your explanation. Some things are best met with silence. Some people are best loved from a distance, because not everything that demands your energy deserves it. People will try to pull you into their storms, into their drama, into their brokenness. But it's your responsibility to protect your energy and preserve your focus. That's not selfish, that's wise. If it costs you your peace, it's too expensive. If it drains you more than it grows you, it's not an investment, it's a loss. Stop making losses look like obligation. Think about how often you feel exhausted, not physically, but emotionally. It's not always the workload or the goals or the daily tasks. It's often the small, invisible leaks in your spirit caused by misplaced energy. That one conversation that ruined your day, that one person you keep giving chances to, that one thought you keep revisiting, even though it only brings you pain. This is why energy management matters more than time management, because you can have a free schedule but still feel burnt out if your energy is being used in the wrong places. Know what deserves your energy by recognizing what's robbing it. That's how you start reclaiming your strength. Start paying attention to how you feel after spending time with certain people or doing certain things. Do you feel uplifted or drained, motivated or confused, peaceful or anxious? Your body and your soul are always telling you the truth. You just need to start listening. The people who truly value your energy won't waste it. The situations that are aligned with your growth will nourish it. So you've got to start being selective, not out of arrogance, but out of self-respect, because your energy is sacred, not disposable. You don't need to explain to everyone why you're distancing yourself, why you're not responding, why you're not showing up like you used to. That's part of knowing what deserves your energy. Realizing that explanations require effort, and not everyone is entitled to that effort. Your silence can be louder than any argument. Your peace can be more powerful than any clapback. Some people feed off your reaction. Some situations escalate because you keep entertaining them. But when you learn to withdraw your energy, to disengage, to stop watering dead plants, you begin to see the shift. You start growing in ways you never imagined, simply because you're no longer leaking energy in every direction. It's not about being cold or distant. It's about being intentional. You stop trying to fix people who don't want to be fixed. You stop trying to prove yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop explaining your worth to people who were never meant to see it. That's how you protect your power. Not by shutting down emotionally, but by becoming aware of where your emotional resources go. And once you make that change, everything begins to realign. We all have limited capacity, mental, emotional, and spiritual. You cannot pour into everyone else and have something left for yourself unless you manage your energy like it's your most valuable asset, because it is. Knowing what deserves your energy means choosing your peace over pressure, your clarity over confusion, your progress over distraction. You stop trying to win every argument. You stop seeking validation from people who are still figuring themselves out. You start saying no without guilt and yes without resentment. That shift alone will change your life. Some people won't like it. They'll call you selfish, distant, arrogant. Let them. Because when you stop being accessible to chaos, People used to feeding off your light will try to guilt you for taking it back. But stay grounded. Protecting your energy isn't about being better than anyone. It's about being better for yourself. You've tried the other way, you've overextended, you've given too many chances, you've tolerated too much, and now it's time for boundaries. Boundaries built from love for yourself. Boundaries that say, I will no longer give pieces of me to people who keep breaking them. That's not rude, that's responsible. Sometimes we get so used to giving our energy away, we don't even realize how much it's costing us. We think stress is normal. Anxiety is just part of life. Burnout is the price for ambition. But that's not true. Much of our emotional fatigue comes from not guarding our energy. You're not tired because you're doing too much. You're tired because you're giving too much to the wrong things. Know what deserves your energy by setting priorities. Not everything that is urgent is important. Not every call deserves a call back. Not every invitation needs a yes. You have to start measuring things by how they contribute to your purpose. If it doesn't grow you, it drains you. If it doesn't align with who you're becoming, it distracts you from that path. Your energy should not be used to babysit other people's dysfunction. Let them carry their own weight. You have your own battles. You have your own healing to do. And you can't do that if you're constantly being pulled into storms that aren't yours. Reclaim your calm. Reclaim your space. Reclaim your ability to walk away from what does not serve you and feel zero guilt about it. You'll know you're mastering your energy when peace becomes more valuable than attention, when solitude becomes more nourishing than shallow conversations, when doing less feels more powerful than doing everything for everyone. Knowing what deserves your energy is about tuning into your higher self and saying, I choose growth, I choose stillness, I choose presence. It's realizing you're not obligated to carry emotional weight that doesn't belong to you. It's no longer chasing closure where there's only chaos. It's releasing the need to be liked and replacing it with the desire to be whole. And that's where your power starts to expand. When you understand that your attention is an investment and your presence is a gift. You stop giving it away freely. You stop pouring into things that leave you empty. You start fueling what fills you. The right people, the right goals, the right environment. That's where your energy thrives. That's where you begin to feel aligned again. And that's the key, not to burn out proving your worth, but to preserve your energy for the life you were meant to build. Quietly, intentionally, and unapologetically. There's a power in silence that words will never touch. In a world that constantly demands your response, your reaction, your opinion, choosing silence can feel like rebellion. But it's not weakness, it's not avoidance. Silence is strength. It is a boundary. It's the declaration that you will not lower your energy to match chaos. There's a maturity in realizing you don't have to respond to every insult, explain yourself to every doubter, or participate in every argument. When you go silent, you're not surrendering. You're protecting. You're choosing peace over performance, clarity over noise. People may misunderstand your silence. They might take it as passive or dismissive. But they don't see the internal power it takes to hold your tongue when your pride wants to speak. They don't see the healing that happens in the quiet. When you stop speaking, you start listening to yourself, to your intuition, to what truly matters. Silence isn't emptiness, it's full of truth. It's full of reflection. And when used with intention, it's louder than any scream. You don't have to announce your growth. You don't have to argue your value. Let your silence speak. It says, I'm not giving this my energy. I've outgrown this level of conversation. There's a wisdom that comes with silence. It's the wisdom to observe instead of react, to reflect instead of explode. You learn more by watching people's patterns than listening to their promises. Silence gives you the space to see clearly. Who's genuine, who's playing games, who respects your boundaries, and who only pushes them. When you're silent, you see how loud the world is with distractions, with ego, with noise that doesn't move you forward. Silence is not about suppressing your voice. It's about mastering your response. It's knowing the value of peace and refusing to trade it for temporary satisfaction. Sometimes silence is how you protect your peace from people who don't know how to handle it. It's how you take your power back from situations that don't deserve your presence. And those who thrive off conflict won't understand it. They'll push harder, get louder, try to provoke a response. But that's when silence becomes your armor, not because you're scared, but because you're focused, because you've realized not everything needs your attention. You're not here to entertain every battle. You're here to grow. And growth often happens in the quiet moments, when you step back, breathe deep, and let your silence speak for you. There's something powerful about not needing to be right, not needing to be heard, not needing to win every debate. That's where true emotional maturity lives. Silence is the sound of self-control, the strength to walk away from a fight that offers nothing but ego bruises. Some people are addicted to noise because they fear what silence will reveal, but not you. You're learning that silence is where healing begins. It's where your mind declutters, where your spirit finds rest. It's where you gather your strength. When life gets loud, when people come at you with drama, with negativity, with confusion, don't match it. Pause. Don't swing back. Breathe. That silence is your strategy, because not everything deserves your voice. Some situations are best ended with silence. It's not cold, it's calculated. It says, I value my energy too much to waste it here. The more you grow, the more selective you become with your words. You don't speak just to fill the space. You speak when it matters, and when it doesn't, you stay silent and let your discipline do the talking. Because not reacting doesn't mean you didn't notice. It means you saw it, measured it, and decided your peace was worth more. Silence is not the absence of feeling, it's the presence of restraint. When your emotions are boiling and your pride wants to speak, but you choose stillness instead, that's a quiet revolution. That's the power of self-mastery. Sometimes the best way to communicate is by not communicating. Let people feel your absence. Let them wonder why you're no longer explaining yourself. Let them sit with their assumption. Because your silence says, I've said all I needed to say. Or sometimes you were never listening anyway. It's hard to be silent when you want to be heard, when your heart is full and your mind is racing. But it's in that moment, when the urge to react is strongest, that silence becomes the boldest choice. You're not withdrawing because you're weak. You're rising above because you're wise. You're not trying to win people over. You're winning back your focus. In silence, you rediscover who you are without the noise of others' opinions. You remember that not every action deserves a reaction. Some things are beneath your response. Some people are no longer in alignment with your path. So instead of arguing, walk away. Instead of explaining, smile and go quiet. That silence will echo louder than words ever could. You will know you've healed when silence no longer feels like punishment but protection. When being misunderstood doesn't stir you. When being ignored doesn't shake you. That's the shift. That's when you know your worth isn't tied to how much noise you make. Silence becomes a choice rooted in confidence. You don't chase conversations. You don't beg to be heard. You don't try to force clarity. You simply let people reveal themselves and choose your peace. Because the truth is, if someone values you, they'll listen even in the quiet. If they don't, no amount of words will change that. Silence filters your life. It shows you who leans in and who fades out. It teaches you that you don't need to exhaust yourself explaining, proving, defending. All you need to do is stand still, stay grounded, and let the silence do the sorting. It's not that you don't care. It's that you care enough about yourself to stop pouring energy into spaces that drain you. That's not detachment, it's discernment. It's knowing you can't grow in chaos. It's realizing you don't owe everyone access to your voice, your heart, or your time. Sometimes silence says everything they refused to hear before. People will test you. They'll push buttons just to see if you'll explode. They'll stir chaos just to get a reaction. But when you stay silent, when you keep your peace, it disarms them. It confuses them. Because most people are used to noise, used to the back and forth, the emotional warfare. But silence ends the game. It breaks the cycle. And in that stillness, you rise. You've learned that not every storm needs a sailor. Not every fire needs to be fought. Some things burn out faster when you stop feeding them your energy. Silence is how you win battles you never should have been in. It's how you protect your mental clarity. How you choose inner wealth over external validation. And it doesn't mean you're not hurt. It doesn't mean you don't feel. It just means you're healing in private. It means you're moving in silence, building in silence, elevating in silence. Because real transformation doesn't need applause. It needs focus. And silence is the focus that brings it all together. While they're talking, you're working. While they're shouting, you're growing. While they're watching, you're rising. Quietly, consistently. Eventually, you'll realize the loudest people often have the least peace. The most reactive are usually the most insecure. But you're learning that silence is the voice of stability, of confidence, of peace that doesn't need to prove anything. When you stop explaining yourself to people who already made up their minds, you reclaim your dignity. When you stop arguing with people committed to misunderstanding you, you reclaim your time. Silence becomes your filter. What doesn't align with your energy fades away without force. And what's meant for you finds its way, no noise needed. It's hard at first. It feels unnatural. But once you experience the freedom that comes with holding your tongue, protecting your energy, and choosing peace, you'll never go back. You'll stop over-explaining, stop reacting, stop trying to be understood by people who don't even understand themselves. You'll let your presence speak. You'll let your growth speak. You'll let your peace speak. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. And in that silence, you'll hear your own voice again. The real one. The one that doesn't shout. The one that doesn't beg. The one that just is. Calm, clear, and unstoppable. The truth is, what still triggers you is what still controls you. It's easy to pretend like we've moved on, to cover up pain with distractions, busyness, or even fake smiles. But deep down, certain words still cut too deep. Certain names, memories, or situations still cause your chest to tighten and your hands to tremble. That's a signal, not a weakness, a signal that there's still healing to be done. You can't fake peace. You can't outrun pain that lives inside you. What you refuse to face, you continue to carry. Healing what still triggers you means being honest with yourself. It means asking, why does this still bother me? Why does this person or event still have this power over me? It means tracing the roots, not just judging the fruit, because those triggers, they come from somewhere. Maybe it's betrayal that was never acknowledged. Maybe it's abandonment that was never comforted. Maybe it's a childhood wound you learned to ignore just to survive, but the body remembers. The heart remembers. And if you want to truly be free, you have to stop patching wounds and start healing them from the inside out. That kind of healing is hard, but it's necessary if you want real peace. Healing is not pretty. It's not a straight line or a quick fix. It's messy. It's reliving things you tried to bury. It's allowing emotions to rise that you once silenced. But healing is also freedom. Because when you heal what triggers you, you stop reacting and start responding. You stop reliving the same pain in different relationships, different jobs, different seasons. You stop punishing yourself for something that wasn't your fault. And yes, it might hurt before it helps. But that's how it works. Healing happens when you give yourself permission to feel it all without judgment. When you finally say, I'm tired of carrying this, because until you do, your triggers will show up as anger, defensiveness, avoidance, even perfectionism. You'll find yourself lashing out, shutting down, or isolating just to avoid what's still hurting you. But there's power in naming it. Power in sitting with the discomfort long enough to understand it. That's when the transformation begins. That's when your triggers lose their grip on you. That's when you reclaim the power you once gave away. And that's when you realize healing isn't weakness. It's the bravest, strongest, most loving thing you can do for yourself and for everyone who loves you. Most people never heal because they confuse numbing with healing. They confuse avoiding the trigger with overcoming it. But you can't heal by avoiding life. You can't move forward while still looking over your shoulder. Healing what triggers you is choosing to confront the places in your soul where the pain got stuck. It's not about blaming people. It's not about reliving the trauma forever. It's about going back to the moment where you lost a piece of yourself and giving it voice, giving it love, giving it closure. That closure doesn't always come from others. Sometimes the person who hurt you will never apologize. Sometimes life won't explain why it broke your heart. But healing isn't waiting for them to fix it. It's you choosing to stop bleeding on people who didn't cut you. It's you choosing to love yourself enough to clean the wound, to protect your peace, to release what already happened. Triggers are lessons in disguise. They point you to what still needs attention. And healing is you answering that call, not with hate, not with shame, but with truth, with courage, with the quiet declaration, I deserve to live free from this. And that decision alone changes everything. You begin to heal when you stop letting your past write the script for your present. Because every time you react out of a trigger, you hand the pen back to a pain that already had its turn. Healing isn't about pretending the pain never happened. It's about deciding it no longer gets to define you. Yes, the rejection hurt. Yes, the betrayal broke you. Yes, the abandonment scarred something deep inside. But that pain is not your identity. That trigger is not your truth. It's a message, not a life sentence. You don't have to be guarded forever. You don't have to stay angry just to feel strong. Healing means rewriting the narrative. Instead of saying, "This always happens to me," you begin to say, "I now respond with wisdom, not wounds." You start to breathe before you explode. You learn to pause before you self-destruct. You no longer let every rude word, every dismissive glance, every hard moment throw you off your center. Because you're building something deeper now. You're building peace. And peace doesn't come from never being triggered. It comes from knowing how to rise above the trigger. From refusing to give your power to the pain again. As you heal, something shifts. The same situations that used to make you spiral no longer move you. The same people that once had the ability to ruin your whole day now only get silence. You stop trying to change people who refuse to grow. You stop chasing love that feels like begging. You stop reacting to disrespect like it's your job to correct it. That's what healing looks like. It's not that you don't feel anymore. It's that you've trained yourself to feel without unraveling. You've built inner security. You've created emotional safety within yourself. So even when life gets chaotic, even when people try to push your buttons, you don't fall apart. You stay rooted. You observe more. You internalize less. That's a strength no one can fake. It's earned through reflection, through awareness, through the quiet work nobody sees. That inner peace, that calm, it comes from facing your triggers head on, from understanding their origin, from learning to soothe instead of suppress. And the more you do that, the more you realize that healing isn't about controlling the outside world. It's about mastering your inner one. And once you do, everything changes, not because the world got easier, but because you got stronger. There's no timeline for healing, no deadline for peace. You take as long as you need, as often as you need, and you honor every step. Some days you'll feel strong, other days you'll feel broken all over again. That's okay. Healing is not linear. But every time you choose to respond instead of react, to breathe instead of lash out, to reflect instead of run away, you're breaking the pattern. You're rewriting your story. Triggers lose their power when you stop fearing them. When you stop seeing them as proof that you're weak and start seeing them as signs that you're still fighting, still growing, still becoming the person who no longer needs to be defined by their pain. That's the power of healing. Doesn't erase your past, but it transforms your relationship to it. You start to hold your story differently. You start hiding the wounds and start honoring the wisdom they gave you. And one day what used to trigger you becomes what inspires you. Because now you understand it. Now you've outgrown it. Now you're walking in a peace that's been earned, not given. And that peace, it's unshakable because it came from inside. It came from truth. It came from you. Eventually you realize that healing isn't just about you. It's about everyone you love too. When you heal what triggers you, you stop bleeding on people who never cut you. You stop projecting old pain onto new people. You stop repeating cycles you swore you'd never repeat. That's what real love looks like, healing yourself so you can show up whole. So you can parent from peace instead of pain. So you can lead without ego. Or you can love without fear. And it starts with facing the mirror, with asking the hard questions, with doing the work no one applauds you for. It starts with crying through it, journaling through it, praying through it. And most of all, it starts with believing you're worthy of a life beyond survival, that you deserve joy that isn't fragile, that you're allowed to feel safe, to trust again, to laugh without guilt. Healing what triggers you is the most powerful act of self-respect. It's how you prove to yourself that your story doesn't end in pain, it ends in power. And every step you take toward that healing makes you a little freer, a little wiser, a little more unstoppable. Because healed people move differently, they love differently, they live differently. And so will you. Most people are out here talking, explaining, defending, proving, but the real power is in building a life that speaks for you so loudly that you don't need to say a word. You don't need to prove your worth when your actions already echo it. You don't need to beg for respect when the way you live demands it. Building a life that speaks for you means focusing less on convincing people and more on becoming undeniable. It's not about flashy things or big announcements. It's about quiet consistency. It's about making choices every single day that align with your values, your peace, and your vision. When you wake up early to grind, when you choose discipline over distraction, when you walk away from chaos instead of feeding it, that speaks. That energy is louder than any caption, louder than any defense. You stop chasing validation because your life becomes the evidence. People might doubt your words, but they can't argue with your results. They can't question your peace, your progress, your presence. And that's the goal, not to be the loudest voice in the room, but to carry a presence so solid, so true, so grounded that your silence commands more respect than someone else's noise. Building a life that speaks for you is about letting your growth do the talking. You don't have to respond to every insult. You don't have to argue with people who misunderstand you. You just keep building, keep showing up, keep improving. The people who doubted you will have to watch. The people who underestimated you will have to adjust. And it's not out of revenge. It's out of alignment. When you're in alignment, you no longer need to explain. The life you've built becomes the message. Every healed wound, every risk taken, every habit improved, every boundary held, those become bricks in the life you're building. And eventually the weight of all that truth becomes louder than any rumor, any criticism, any doubt. You can't fake peace. You can't fake self-respect. You can't fake elevation. You either live it or you don't. And when you live it, people notice, even in silence, especially in silence. So stop wasting energy trying to get people to understand you. Start spending that energy becoming so rooted in who you are that their opinion doesn't shake you. Because when your life speaks clearly, you don't have to raise your voice. Sometimes the best response is no response, just elevation. Just progress, just quiet, focused transformation. Let your success whisper in rooms where your name used to be dragged. Let your peace speak in moments where chaos used to thrive. Let your growth be so steady that even the people who left have to admit you didn't need them to rise. And that doesn't come from bitterness, that comes from discipline. From deciding that you'd rather outgrow than outtalk, that you'd rather level up than lash out, that you'd rather shine in silence than scream for attention. Building a life that speaks for you means taking the long road, the hard road, the road that doesn't always get applause, but leads to legacy. It means saying no to quick validation and yes to long-term fulfillment. It means betting on yourself when nobody claps for you. Because eventually, the same people who ignored your process will be the ones asking about your results. And your results, they'll speak volumes. Not just about what you did, but about who you had to become to get there. And that version of you, the one that chose growth over gossip, peace over pettiness, purpose over performance, that's the version no one can deny. There's something powerful about not having to explain yourself, not because you don't care, but because you've grown. You've learned that your energy is sacred, that not everyone deserves access to your truth. When you're building a life that speaks for you, you stop oversharing. You stop over-explaining. You stop trying to be understood by people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Instead, you focus on alignment. You get real with yourself about what you want, what you need, what you're no longer willing to tolerate. And from that place, you move, you build, you grow quietly, consistently, powerfully. And one day people start to notice, not because you told them, but because they can feel the shift. You're no longer moved by the same things. You're no longer triggered by the same people. You're rooted. You're focused. You're clear. And that clarity, that's what makes your life speak. That's what makes your presence undeniable. You become the proof, not the promise, the evidence, not the explanation. And that kind of energy, that speaks in boardrooms, relationships, friendships, everywhere. Because when your life is built on truth and discipline, you don't need anyone to vouch for you. Your life becomes the loudest, clearest voice in the room. People will talk. That's what they do. They'll speculate, criticize, assume. But when you're truly building a life that speaks for you, none of that sticks. It just bounces off your piece. Because you're too busy building to be bothered. You're too committed to your vision to be caught up in distractions. You've come too far to explain yourself to people who don't even understand themselves. That's when your silence becomes sacred. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise. You've realized that your time is your most valuable currency, and you're no longer spending it where it doesn't grow you. You're investing it in healing, in building, in becoming. And the beauty of that is, eventually your transformation becomes impossible to ignore. The same people who dismissed you will have to acknowledge you. The same ones who counted you out will have to and not because you yelled, argued, or fought for a seat, but because you built your own table. You became your own validation, and now your presence speaks what your words never had to. That's power. That's growth. That's what happens when you stop explaining and start evolving. You want to know what real strength is? Real strength is not proving your worth with noise, it's proving it with movement. It's when your daily habits match your dreams. It's when your routine reflects your values. It's when your lifestyle becomes a reflection of your character. When you show up with integrity, with kindness, with courage, day in, day out. That's what speaks. Not the post, not the speech, the life, your life. And the beautiful thing is, you don't need permission for that. You don't need applause for that. You just need consistency. Because the world may not notice at first, it may take time, but that's okay. You're not doing it for claps. You're doing it for peace, for purpose, for alignment. Because the moment your life starts matching your soul, everything changes, your relationships shift, your energy shifts, your decisions get clearer. And that quiet confidence you carry, that's what sets you apart. That's what makes people stop and look. Not because you ask them to, but because they can't help it. Because when your life speaks truth, purpose, and peace, people listen. Even the ones who tried to ignore you. Every healed version of you, every lesson learned, every elevation earned, it all becomes part of the story your life tells without a word. And that story, that's your legacy. That's what people remember. Not what you said, but how you made them feel. Not what you posted, but what you built. You become a walking message that says you can rise. You can evolve. You don't have to stay where life left you. And that's a message louder than any microphone. Because you've lived it, you've walked it, you've earned it. So don't waste time convincing people who aren't ready to see. Keep building. Keep becoming. Let your life speak in rooms you've never entered. Let your discipline speak when your mouth is tired. Let your transformation speak where your reputation once struggled. And in time, you'll realize your greatest power was never in how loud you could be. It was in how deeply you could live. That's the real influence. That's the real legacy. A life that speaks not just for you, but for everyone watching you. Prove that healing, rising, and building in silence is not only possible, it's unstoppable. There comes a point in your life when you realize that peace is more valuable than popularity, and energy is more precious than attention. You begin to understand that your surroundings influence your spirit, and who you let close can either feed your soul or slowly drain it. Surrounding yourself with people who don't drain you is one of the most powerful forms of self-respect. It's not about cutting people off to be cold. It's about choosing preservation over depletion. When you're always the one giving, fixing, explaining, supporting, you eventually become empty. You start running on fumes, emotionally exhausted from being everything for everyone while receiving very little in return. The truth is, not everyone deserves access to you. Some people carry chaos in their hearts and drop it everywhere they go. If you're not careful, you'll pick it up, thinking it's yours. But you don't have to carry what's not yours. You don't have to be a savior in every story. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for others is step back and let people handle their own weight. Protect your peace like it's gold, because once it's gone, it takes a long time to find again. When you surround yourself with people who uplift you, support your growth, and respect your energy, you begin to see a different version of yourself emerge. You laugh more genuinely. You speak more freely. You rest more deeply. It's not that life gets easier. It's that the burden of pretending, performing, or constantly fixing things for others disappears. You feel lighter. You feel real. And that's what it means to be in the company of people who pour into you rather than drain you. These people don't need you to shrink so they can shine. They don't see your healing as a threat. They celebrate your wins and stand beside you through your struggles without keeping score. And they don't demand you to bleed just so they can feel better about their wounds. You deserve connections that feel mutual, that feel safe, that give back the same level of care, effort, and love you extend. Anything less isn't selfish to walk away from, it's survival. You weren't made to constantly struggle for belonging. You were meant to thrive in spaces where your light is not only seen, but protected. The right people won't drain you. They'll help you rise. You have to be intentional with your circle. Not everyone who smiles at you wants the best for you. Some people only come close to feed off your energy, to soak up your light because they've lost theirs. And that kind of presence is subtle but dangerous. They leave you feeling heavy after every conversation. They dismiss your dreams, downplay your progress, or twist your kindness into weakness. You find yourself walking on eggshells, filtering your words, or over-explaining your boundaries just to keep the peace. That's not friendship. That's emotional labor dressed up as loyalty. Real people, the kind who energize you, don't need you to dilute yourself. They see your boundaries as healthy, not offensive. They don't guilt you into sacrificing your peace for their comfort. They add joy to your space, not noise. They listen without judgment. They understand when you need rest. They show up without keeping score, and being around them, it feels like exhaling. That's the difference. You don't feel drained. You feel refueled. So if someone consistently leaves you feeling less than, less heard, less appreciated, less energized, it's time to protect your space. You can love people from a distance and still choose your mental well-being. The truth is, you are allowed to outgrow people who once felt like home. Sometimes the people you started with can't go where you're going. Don't ignore those signs. Your energy is your responsibility. You're not obligated to stay in draining relationships just because of shared history. Just because someone's been in your life for years doesn't mean they've earned lifelong access. Time served is not love proved. You have to ask yourself, are these people feeding my soul or feeding off it? And if the answer leans toward the latter, it's okay to walk away. It's not heartless, it's healing. Because when you remove the ones who drain you, you make space for the ones who will truly see you, value you, and respect your growth. You can't keep watering dead plants hoping they'll bloom. Sometimes the garden only thrives when you pull the weeds and give yourself permission to flourish. Energy doesn't lie. You might not always be able to explain it, but you can feel it. You feel the heaviness after a phone call, the tension after a visit, the emotional fatigue from being around certain people. That's not your imagination, it's your intuition. Listen to it. You don't have to justify protecting your peace. You don't have to explain why someone's presence leaves you feeling empty. It's enough that you know it, that you honor it. And honoring that doesn't mean you're cruel, it means you're conscious. You've learned that not everyone deserves a front row seat to your life. You've learned that your joy is too sacred to constantly be tampered with. When you start choosing your well-being over pleasing others, everything changes. You say no more often. You rest without guilt. You speak up even if your voice shakes, and slowly the people around you shift. The ones who drained you either fall away or adjust. The ones who value you rise closer. It's a process, yes, but it's worth it, because at the end of the day, your mental health, your peace, your energy, that's the foundation of everything else you build. Protect it relentlessly. Not everyone is equipped to grow with you. Some people are attached to the version of you that stayed quiet, overgave, and tolerated too much. When you start setting boundaries, they don't recognize you anymore. And that's fine, because growth is meant to be uncomfortable, not just for you, but for the people around you. If your healing offends them, that's their reflection to face, not yours to fix. Don't shrink back to make others feel better about staying the same. Don't dull your light to keep someone else from feeling insecure. The people who truly love you will never drain you trying to control or compete with you. They'll honor your space, not invade it. They'll respect your journey, not resent it. Surround yourself with people who speak life into you, who remind you of your strength, who hold you accountable without tearing you down. Those are your people. And they don't drain you, they inspire you. Being around them makes you feel like you can breathe again, like you can be fully you without fear. That's the kind of energy you deserve in your circle. And if you haven't found it yet, become it first. The right people will find you when you're standing in your truth. At the end of the day, your energy is sacred, and so is your peace. Life is already demanding. You're already facing your own storms, climbing your own mountains, healing your own wounds. The last thing you need is to carry people who won't carry themselves. You weren't born to be a dumping ground for other people's pain. You weren't created to constantly fix what others refuse to face. You are allowed to be selective. You are allowed to walk away from draining dynamics. You are allowed to protect your light. That doesn't make you selfish, that makes you wise. You only get one life, and it should be filled with people who love you out loud, who pour back into you, who encourage your becoming. People who remind you that you're not alone, not too much, not a burden. That kind of energy is healing. And when you build a life around that kind of connection, you thrive. You grow without fear. You rest without guilt. You speak without shrinking. And your days are no longer filled with survival, but with soul deep peace. That's what you deserve. That's what you were made for. So protect your circle. Your peace is worth everything. When you begin to train yourself to become unbothered, you step into a higher version of who you were meant to be. You start to see life for what it truly is, not a series of constant reactions, but a powerful opportunity to take control of your energy, your peace, and your purpose. You realize that not everything deserves your attention. Not every insult deserves a response, and not every battle is yours to fight. In silence, you find your greatest strength. It speaks for you when words can't. It becomes a shield when noise surrounds you. It tells the world you've matured beyond the need to prove your worth. Because when you're healed, you stop chasing closure, validation, or revenge. You simply live. You rise. You evolve. Healing what still triggers you is the most courageous act you'll ever do for yourself. It's not easy, but it's necessary. You learn that true peace isn't pretending to be unaffected. It's confronting what hurts so it no longer controls you. It's breaking patterns, forgiving yourself, and releasing what no longer serves you. And from that healing, you build a life that doesn't need defending. You stop explaining who you are. You stop begging to be seen. You let your growth speak through your presence, your work, your discipline, your peace. That life becomes your loudest testimony, and it becomes a magnet for what's aligned with your purpose. You also learn to be intentional with your circle. You surround yourself with people who pour into your spirit, not empty it. People who inspire instead of exhaust, who respect your boundaries, your space, your journey. You don't owe access to everyone. And you're not cold for choosing peace over chaos. Protecting your energy becomes a lifestyle because you know the cost of being drained. You felt the weight of carrying others at your own expense. And now you choose differently. You choose joy, clarity, and alignment. You weren't born to be constantly bothered, emotionally exhausted, or trapped in cycles of chaos. You were created to rise above, to breathe, to become, to live with intention. Your silence, your healing, your boundaries, your growth, they are not weaknesses. They are signs of your strength. They are reminders that you are no longer available for anything that robs you of peace. This journey isn't about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally wise, about knowing what deserves your energy and what simply doesn't. You are not here to convince, to chase, or to shrink. You are here to live fully, fearlessly, and unbothered. So stand tall in your truth. Heal for real. Protect your peace without apology. And never let someone's chaos make you forget the power of your calm. You are powerful beyond words when you choose peace over reaction, silence over noise, and growth over comfort. Thank you for listening. Stay strong. Stay focused. God bless you and keep rising.